Hello friends, welcome. Friends, you might have seen this PIB press release which was posted yesterday on 24th January 2025 where the Department of Telecommunications is seen acting against spoofed call based on reporting of citizen on international for newly launched Sanchar Saathi app and portal. And then it also goes on to say that DOT has asked Indian telcos to drive against such foreign carriers, aggregators who are handling spoofed international calls, and telcos block more than 20 such carriers. And also, DOT has advised citizens to take caution when they receive calls from unfamiliar international numbers and particularly those claiming as government authorities. And DOT urges citizens to report such frauds communication through the newly launched Sanchar Saathi mobile application portal. Now, these are all good. And the friends, why I'm doing this video today is I like to clarify certain things which the people will not be, generally the layman is not going to be aware of regarding this spoofed calls which are coming both from locally as largely from international gateways, because locally the everything is under the control of the government. If anybody is seen enabling or facilitating spoofed calls, fraudster calls, imposter calls, he can be penalized and he can be caught, hold the police, and the police can put him on jail. But if a call is originating from international gateway, the local authorities do not have jurisdiction. Friends, I have been following this subject for a long period of time. I did an article on 27 December 2024 where I mentioned unstoppable ring inside India's battle against spam and fraudulent calls, and I spoke about how difficult it is to block these calls. And on the basis of that, if you type and go internet and just type spam, and then when you SPAM, spam calling, you just type that and you will find that one of the video which I did on this particular topic, which got posted in Mint, you can get the link of this video where I explain all these issues very clearly, and you can go and watch this video. Now today, the reason for doing this video, a fresh video on the same topic, is to tell the viewers that what kind of risks that we still have even when all these measures have been implemented. What are the risks and what are the international experience? Is that what we are going to talk about? Because many of these measures are yielding results, but it is almost like medicines which gives you temporary relief and the real problem will perpetuate. That's the whole purpose of this video, is to give you an understanding, as these may be like paracetamol you take and you feel relief because the real problem is still getting, still entrenched into your body, but the body gets a feeling that the problem has been solved, right? And to explain to this, I have to get to a little bit of deep dive to make you understand what the real problem is. Friends, as I explained in the video which I have just showed you, you can just click and see. This I am going to go a little deep dive because that was more of an interview where the things were dictated by the interviewer, who was interviewing me, right? So I was not having the full freedom to basically give you a very good picture as to what the problem is, and that's why I am doing this video. Friends, all this telecom system that we encounter today has a fundamental flaw compared to the internet-based system. And let me explain what is it, right? I'm not going to use help of any diagram. I'm just going to give you a very essence of the problem. The problem is that whenever anybody makes a call using a conventional telephone system, the caller is not verified. Now people will be surprised. What does it mean? Caller is not verified. So it basically means that if a call originates from a point, right? Let's say if I am making a call, my identity is verified, my mobile number is verified, everything is verified because I actually have given a KYC, and that on the basis of that the SIM has been given to me. But if somebody spoofs my identity and makes a call using a different number, which is technically possible, then the system will treat that number as if that the number has been originating from my mobile phone. That's the problem of the crux of the issue is that. Now, why it doesn't happen in case of an internet-based call or internet-based transaction that we do on a daily basis where the user is verified? The reason in a conventional mobile system the user is not verified is because as the call originates into the system does not treat the caller identity information and verifies it then and there and transmit that information end to end. Means the caller has to be verified, means that when the number originates. For example, if you are communicating using a internet-based system to a website, what will happen is that your identity is going to be authenticated, it is going to be encrypted, and it is going to be sent with the packet which emanates out of your PC or your cloud service provider. So there is no way to tamper that information in between because the identity has been verified, it has been embedded with the packets which get transmitted, and after that there is no way you can enter the system and tamper with that identity. Unless and until the user uses his private key to decrypt the message and extract your identity, right? This is the way the normal internet works. But in case of a conventional mobile system, this kind of encryption of data or identity does not take place end to end within the system. So what happens is that it is assumed that the mobile system is a trusted system, means anybody who is entering the system is a trusted entity. That's how the system has been built, designed, because it is an old system compared to an internet system, which I was trying to explain in that video which I just showed you, which got published in Mint. So that's the crux of the problem, and that is why spoofing of numbers is pretty easy because it is not verified end to end. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what happens is that when I am making a call, right, and my call is getting spoofed by somebody else, means I am a user, I'm not making a call, I'm a user, and if somebody steals my identity, which is my mobile number, and makes a call using a different system through a mobile based network, then the recipient who receives my CLI, means caller line identification, will made to believe that the call has originated from me because somebody may tamper with the system in between and spoof the identity and steal my identity, right? Now let's come back. After having understood this basic concept, let's talk about this press release, because the key focus of this video is this press release and what are the measures which the government of India has taken and what kind of problems that it is going to encounter in future, right? So let's go on the first bullet. DOT asked Indian telcos to initiate a drive against foreign carriers aggregators who are handling over spoofed international calls. Telcos blocks more than 20 such carriers. Let's evaluate and analyze this tagline, right? The headline, sub-headline. Now, what does it mean, 20 such carriers? See, what happens is in an international situation, let me again explain. See, we have 4 service providers in India. We have Bharti, Reliance Jio, BSNL and Vodafone Idea, right? These are the 4 service providers in India. Their operations are located within the country, within the geography of the country, which is India. Now, when a call is originating from an international carrier, it can be located in any country and it is handed over to these 4 operators in international gateway, right? Because the calls has to originate from the gateway when it comes inside the country. Those carriers who are handing over the call to the international gateway, they are not verifying the caller. Because the caller can be anybody. He might have spoofed the call, if he have done anything, the calls are not verified, right? So there are many carriers who loosely, they do not have KYC system. They will sell their connections or SS7 systems to, which SS7 system is just a kind of an emulating a switch. So if you are able to get an access to an SS7 system, then you can emulate as if that you are a service provider, and that is easily possible. And you can do multiple things which a common consumer cannot do. So let's not get into that. So there are various kinds of porous system all over the place around the world, and these carriers, because of any reason whatsoever, because of economic reason, because of corruption, because of lax rules and etc., will give access to these entities who end up doing all these illegal activities. So these carriers, when the calls are coming from these carriers are going to hand over these calls to our international gateway, and the calls will emanate into our country, right? And will create havoc. Now the problem is with blanket blockage of these carriers are, because what he is saying that DOT has told Indian telcos to initiate drive against foreign carriers and block them if they are persistently sending these spoof calls. Now let me ask you a question. All countries, right? It may be the most, we can say that the lawless country. There could be some legal entities, working there who might be using these carriers to make calls to India, right? Maybe there are some relatives, some people who have gone there to work. The carrier may be, may not have those kind of very robust rules, but there could be some genuine callers, right? Who are using these, carriers to make call within our country. So if you are going to do a blanket blocking of these carriers, then what will happen? Those legal callers who are trying to make call within India, how they will be able to communicate with their loved ones or the businesses within India, right? So this is not a kind of an approach which should be encouraged, that you block those carriers, who are making international call, allowing this. Because there could be many genuine people who are making calls using these carriers. And let me give you an example. Now, what has happened was, I was just going through one of the articles. I'm going to put this article here. There are two articles which I was basically going through, which said that Indian police, if you see here, the Indian police raids 24 locations linked to US robocalls imposter scams, right? This article was posted in 27th November 2023. Now, why this headline has come? Let me ask you. Why Indian police is raiding 24 locations linked to US robocall imposter scam? It means that the calls have been originating from Indian carriers to US. It can be Bharti Airtel, it can be Reliance Jio, it can be BSNL, it can be Vodafone. What else? From where else the calls are going to originate from India? So the US authorities have complained to Indian authorities that look, your network is getting used to spam US citizen. So therefore, because of this complaint, there was raids which actually took place within India. So had the US agencies blocked Bharti Airtel just because they were robocalls which were originating from India, spam calls which are originating, have they blocked Reliance Jio? Have they blocked BSNL? Have they blocked Vodafone Idea? They haven't, right? So what they have done, they have complained to the authorities that please take care of your house. Don't allow these agencies, these call centers to make these calls and fraud US citizens. That's all they have done. So that is why my point was very simple. If you are going to have these you encourage these kind of things of blocking telcos, right? Carriers who are actually basically indulged in then you will be ending up blocking the whole world. Because it will be impossible to control robocalls, spam calls originating, because there could be some loopholes which they will find, and they may be illegal within their country, right? It may be illegal here, it may be legal within the country, and only way to prevent such kind of incident is to basically have international cooperation and make your local system robust. This brings me to a different kind of subject which is more important in order to deal with this issue. So let's talk about that, right? What is that is is what we should do, rather than blanket blocking of telcos, who are basically indulging in this kind of facilitating such a kind of activities. So what we can do is we can basically make our local system very robust in the sense that there cannot be any call originating from a local system, and we should be tagging the calls which are originating from international countries as international calls, which they have already done, right? So like if you see that, the government, as you know, that the government of India has already instructed the mobile operators to tag all international calls originating from international gateway as international calls, so that people who actually are looking at those calls and receiving those calls know that they are originating from international numbers. But the problem is that I haven't seen any number which originating from outside India with a local CLI tagged as international number. There could be calls which are international origin being tagged as international numbers, but I don't know whether the mobile carriers have the capability to tag calls which are originating from international gateways as the international number with local CLI. That I don't know. I am not sure. The viewers, if anybody is listening and if you are more aware of this subject, please let me know. The reason is that it might be a little difficult to implement that, because it is very easy to basically identify the prefix. If it is coming from international number, it identifies the prefix and then you can tag. But the bigger problem is to tag calls which are emanating from outside the country with local CLI. If they are doing so, that's great, because that is where the main problem is. Because I can very easily make out by looking at the number, if it is a +65 number or something else, which doesn't look like that it is an Indian number, as an international number, tagging those calls as international number is basically a redundant activity. And it might create some confusion too, because if you are tagging a call as international calls, and that itself basically is seen as an activity which is nefarious in nature, because if you're tagging something in international call, it is considered as a nefarious activity, because that is the perception people will get who are in kind of trying to protect themselves as from this spoofed call. Then even genuine calls are not going to be entertained. You understand what the problem is? That is why internationally these systems are not in place. Whatever we are implementing in India, like telcos blocking carriers, marking international calls, this is not the way people are implementing a system to prevent spoofing and fraudulent activities in their country. What they're doing, they are trying to emulate the internet-based system within the mobile system, which is called a stir-second system, which I have already mentioned in my article. If you look at this article, you read my article, this is what I have mentioned here. And I mentioned that why India can't implement stir-second system. Now, what is stir-second system? Now, stir-second system is nothing but emulating the same kind of phenomena which happens in an internet-based calling system or internet-based communication system, where the originating user his identity is encrypted and tagged and encapsulated in the packet which actually originates from his PC or cloud service provider, so that when it reaches the user is able to use its public key, private key, and therefore able to extract that information, so nobody can tamper that information in between. The same kind of system is implemented elsewhere in the country, especially in US. Now, why this system can't be implemented in India? The problem is that the system can only be implemented in an IP-based system, which is a 4G and 5G system. It can't be implemented in 2G and 3G system. And that is why, because India still have a very large 2G and 3G system still in place, any implementation of this system in India where the caller identity is verified, means you authenticate the caller. You don't just display the caller ID, you authenticate the caller. If it is originating from domestic, if it has a domestic origin, you authenticate. Hey, look, this is the caller who actually says this is the caller, this is the caller. So I authenticate, right? The carrier authenticates using this particular system. And if he can't authenticate, it will say that I can't authenticate. Even if it is an international number or it is a spoofed number or whatever it is, it will simply say it can't authenticate. So the user is given more context that, if the caller is authenticated and if it gives a local CLI, then he is assured that it is authenticated, and that is the system called state second system. And in India, because of the 2G and 3G implementation, it becomes very difficult to implement this system, right? So again, now let's come back to this Sanchar Saathi app, which they have implemented, and where there is a reporting system. All these are good. There is no problem, because if a number which comes, which is originating from the outside, and if you are reporting this number, then the government of India is taking action based on this in a public report, citizen reporting. All that is good, but it does not solve the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is to strengthen your local system, make your local system IP aware, make every call authenticated, by the system, so that the caller can be digitally verified like an IP based system, and on international calls needs to be monitored. And if it can't be verified, it can't be verified. But how do you verify international calls? Because what is happening is that, just like an IP based system, whether the call is terminating or the IP traffic is terminating locally or internationally, it is an end-to-end verified system. The system will verify each other. That's how the communication is able to take place in a open system, where anybody can encroach and create a havoc within the system. But you are still able to use that system in an open system, which is liable to all kind of fraud activity and everything, but it is working perfectly. Similarly, if let's say there are carriers out there, internationally, where you can have some international agreement that the system in place that we are implementing in India, similar verification system is implemented throughout the world to transform the conventional legacy telephone system from a totally untrustworthy system to a trustworthy system, where each and every caller is identified and verified, so that when a call originates from a particular entity, whether it is local or international, you can by confidence say that this caller has been identified. So if anybody commits a crime, then you can reach that entity using Interpol or any kind of activity and penalize that particular individual. So this is an idealistic system in place, which we have to implement in the end. Otherwise, there is no solution to this problem, because US, after having tried so many years, after having implemented, robocall mitigation techniques in the international gate, still is not able to circumvent this problem. And in India, by, using these measures, which actually will create problems for legal callers, how can we even think of solving this problem unless we deep dive and understand this issue in much more deeper sense? Sanchar Saathi app is fine, monitoring international call is fine, but we have to come out with a robust system, just like a second system, which is able to identify and authenticate each and every individual when he is making the call. For international calls which are terminating in our country, we have to have international agreements with major carriers, major countries, so that they also hand over verified calls rather than unverified calls. That is the way towards solution. I am not saying that is going to solve the problem, but this is the way towards solution without blocking the road just because the roads are causing accidents. Suppose, let's say, if there is a road, highway, where the accidents are occurring and many accidents occur, I block that road. Then what will happen? I want to go from one place to another using the road, I will not be able to travel, right? I will be also blocked in the whole process. Is that the solution? Definitely not. So friends, what do you think about this video? Let me know. And if you have any comments or suggestion or any kind of information that you want to give, please use my comment section, and I'll come back with a new video next time. Thanks for listening.